All right, enough is enough. I just couldn't take it anymore. I had to make this video. There's a guy that's been posting out on one of the more popular Facebook groups dealing with audio gear, and he's been promoting a practice. Maybe it's as a joke, maybe not. I'm not really sure, but he's made a couple videos and quite a few posts about it recently, and I just can't watch it anymore. So please never do this to your audio gear, and this is why. You'll get a kick out of this, I think. All right, I think you get the idea here. I can't watch it anymore. Yeah, I saw this post this morning and it threw me over the edge, guys and gals. Let me tell you why this is a bad idea. I mean, I'm not knocking all the merits of getting an amplifier clean, getting the dust off, whatnot. Let me just explain to you why water is not the path to take to do that. Okay, in behind a nice vintage stereo like this, a Pioneer, whatever, in behind the dial glass, there is typically a piece of cardboard called vellum. Let me show you what that looks like. All right, vellum is a form of paper, and it goes in behind there, and it helps diffuse the light before it gets to the actual dial or the meters. And so you get this stuff wet, it's going to deteriorate, it's going to fall apart, it's going to mold. It's just not going to be the scenario you're going to want for the life of this unit. Okay, up next, you can see here where I've drawn the little red arrows. Those are transformers. Guess what transformers are made up of? They are made up of iron laminations, stacks of them, maybe 100, maybe 200, maybe 300 in a transformer. Let's look at that. All right, as you can see here, little iron laminated pieces just stacked on top of each other. That's what makes up a transformer. Well, guess what iron does? That's right, iron rust. It's the number one component in steel. As you can see here on the left, some iron chain, it rusts. Nails, they're made of iron. That's what it does, it rusts. Your transformer laminations are going to do the same thing. They're going to rust together. It's not going to be good, I promise you. All right, while we're talking about transformers, let's look at how these things are made. We've talked about the laminations, but you've also got the copper winding on the inside. And guess what? This copper winding, in many cases, goes around a cardboard form. That cardboard form is going to warp, rot, deteriorate, and the windings of this transformer are separated and isolated in many cases between the various windings with pieces of paper, cardboard that separate these things. Again, not going to hold up well to water. And if your gear has any vintage to it at all, it's likely to have some of these wax-coated paper capacitors. The ends of these things are sealed up with wax. Well, over time, this wax has gotten hot, it's cracked. You go spraying, you're going to get water inside these capacitors. They're going to short out. I'm not saying these shouldn't be replaced anyway because they're probably old, but again, water and these things are not going to be friends. And what about if it's a nice old amplifier? This one happens to be a really special one, but it has cloth coated wiring inside of it. You don't think that's going to soak up the water? Water's going to get inside this up next against the copper, and it's not going to be good. Guess what happens with water and copper over time? Exactly, copper corrodes. That's what's going to happen to the wires inside of the protective covering in your amplifier, and you may not even be able to see it because it's inside that copper braid, or perhaps got up inside of some PVC or other type of covering. You just never know because you won't be able to see it. And I'm going to leave this as my last reason. Have you ever worked with Amprex Bugle Boy tubes? I mean, you barely touch the tubes and this lettering starts coming off, much less a hose pipe in 20 seconds, and there would be no lettering on these tubes whatsoever, and the value of these things would be greatly diminished. Just one more reason, keep the water away from tubes. The same thing could happen on the lettering of some of your dials on a vintage tuner. Just don't do it. All right, in all fairness to the guy making these posts, this really isn't about him. This is about the practice I'm seeing here that's being promoted, and I just don't like it. What I'm talking about, the guy actually made a video of one of his units playing after washing it out. And I don't doubt that it did if you let it dry out. But the problem is, all the stuff I'm talking about here today, it plays out over time. Rust, corrosion, they take days, weeks, months to do really bad things. You know, just don't do it to your gear. Even if you're trying to make a quick buck off of eBay and you get this thing dried out and it's looking good and whatnot, and you sell it, somebody's going to have problems down the road. It's not good to our community. It's not good to a hobby, and it's certainly not good to the preservation of this gear over the long term. Thanks for watching, everybody, and please spread the word. Don't do this.